Hi everybody, Colin Stevenson here, joined by my hero John Lenhart. Hi John.
Hi.
Today we're going to talk about parenting because most people, in my belief and in yours, people don't really know what a parent's meant to do. You know, they think because they're meant to kind of look after them, yes, but are they meant to look after them where they do what they think and do, or are they doing what's good for the child? And this is what we're going to go into this deeper today and hopefully are able to give some information to parents or future parents based on their role as a parent. So if you'd like to start us off, please, John.
Right. So I wrote a book on LinkedIn. It was 52 chapters. I wrote one chapter each week. And when I started the book, I had lined out all 52 chapters and I knew where the book was going to end. It was going to end on the difference between parenting and being a leader, because those are two different things. And I kept asking people, anybody who would bring up leadership on LinkedIn, I would ask them, what's your definition of leader? And after about 2.5 months, nobody answered that question. And I began to become convinced that no one was going to answer the question. I thought I could make it a whole year on LinkedIn by the time my book's done, and no one will ever answer the question. And then this guy puts up a post asking about parenting. He talks about parenting and leadership. And I thought, well, first of all, it's a leadership post, so I'm going to be drawn to that. But second of all, here's this guy who's got a post that's talking about the end of my book. So I asked this guy, what's your definition of parenting? What's your definition of leadership? And he answers it, which kind of ruined my streak after 2.5 months. However, even though I didn't agree with his answers, I complimented the guy and said, you're amazing. You're the first person on LinkedIn to answer this question. And he said, oh, you're just playing with me. You're just, you can't be right. And I said, go ahead and ask other people their definition. And what happened, Colin, when you asked people their definition?
I didn't get an answer.
So that's how Colin and I met. This is how we originally met. Colin was the first person to give a definition for a word he used on LinkedIn. And after a year, there were less than 10 people.
Yep.
So that tells you the power of that. So when we did all those videos dealing with bullies and arguing in 3 questions, that my first step is always ask a definition. And that's how I can say 90%. It's a lot more than that. But 90% of these things dissolve because people don't know the definition. So I like to ask people, what do you think is the definition of parenting? Or what do you think a parent's responsibility is? And the way I illustrate it is I say a bird teaches their young how to fly.
Yes.
You as a parent, what are you supposed to teach your young how to do? The word human comes from man. Man comes from the Sanskrit manu, which means to think. So the way I judge every parent is I see how much they are teaching their young how to think, not what to think, not why to think, but actually how to think. The problem is the parents don't know how to think. 2 of my chapters on that book dealt with how to think. 2 of my chapters, one of them was to get like a driver's permit, a learner's permit, and a driver's license. I talked about a thinker's permit and a thinker's license. If you took a test on how to think, would you pass? They are the 2 least read chapters of my book because people don't want to look at that at all. They don't want to realize they do not know how to think. That's what parents ought to be doing for their kids. But the problem is the parents themselves don't know how to think.
Yeah. While you met on the subject, I always remember being told what to think because it's what my parent thought. Now, again, we can use the term bad parenting without putting people down. You know, I'm not going to say my mum's a bad parent. She did the best she could do with what she knew or how she thought thought, right? So thought, how she thought. So basically, what we do is there's no manual to teach how to parent. You know, we aren't given one at the time of birth. So what we do is we do the best of what we've got. We usually relate back to what our parents did to us, and then we adapt it. We adapt it to the point where it's like, I didn't like that, so no, they're not getting that, even though this might fit, you know, and it goes back to their parents and their parents, and this is how it's always been done. So what we are creating as parents is an adaptive behaviour of generations of behaviour. And if they're all not healthy, you're really just adapting and manipulating different bad behaviours onto your child.
So this is where we said we're starting to pull all of these videos. We've done like 80 of these videos. We're pulling all these together. You did a video with Jonathan about, you know, the parenting where, you know, they're basically, you know, what was your term for the parenting?
Codependent parenting.
So codependent parenting. We are talking about flow. Our flow introduction talked about how we at Flowcess believe we're the only people who can intentionally help anyone flow, because we understand that flow is manipulating your brain between two thought processes. And the thing that does that is your intangible driver. We say you're a driver in a car. Your brain's the car. You are the driver. If you don't know who you are, then you aren't going to be able to manipulate or fit to the car. And so in all those videos, there's this one point that keeps being made over and over again. Do you, the driver of the car, know who you are so you can drive your brain according to who you are? That's the first point. And that's talking about how to think. And if everything I just said is throwing you, then you don't know how to think. And that's why people don't know how to think. That's why they don't know how to flow. The second point, and this was the point, Colin, you continually make over and over again, is everyone is unique. So your kid's way of driving their car is not the way you drive your car. So when you tell your kid what to think and why to think, you are trying to make them do what you are trying to do. And that is ruining their ability to drive their brain. So it's really important for parents to understand who they are so they can drive their brain the right way, and then be able to identify who their kids are so they can give information to the kids in their uniqueness, how to drive their car.
Yeah. Now, just while we're on this as well, when we speak, we're talking about how to bring the best out of a child by making them more themselves. It doesn't mean you can't say to them, that's dangerous, that's rude, that's bad behaviour. You can still do all that, and that's guidance. But it's the way that we speak and the way that we tell them and the way that we teach them has to be the way that they learn, and not from the way that we want to project what we're feeling onto them. And that's where the link between our video just now and the previous one with Jonathan is. Everything's a projection of how a person feels about themselves. And when they throw that onto somebody else, especially a young mind, they don't know what to feel or what to think, because they feel, I should be doing this because I'm being told it, but it doesn't sit well with me. And they know intangibly that they should be spoken to in a different way. But because they're so young of mind, and because they're minimal life experience, and they're not as old, they don't have the respect thing to be able to say it. They can't say, speak to me the way that I want to be spoken to.
Right. So you see the kid do some sort of behavior, and you can call it undesirable behavior. Why are they doing that behavior? They are a driver in a car, and they have a certain thing they're trying to do through their how and why, and it's coming out off, which none of us are perfect. Do you take the time to find out why they're doing it? Or if you know your uniqueness, you'll know why they're doing it. But if you misapply their uniqueness, or you just look at the behavior, then you're making a projection on their intentions, and then you're hindering their uniqueness, and then you are ruining the kid. And that's why we're talking about this. Do you reward that kid for doing things in their uniqueness, even though it's different than your uniqueness? Or do you reward the kid for doing things in your uniqueness, teaching them to drive their car like you drive your car? That's not good for that kid.
Absolutely not. And I find this all the time. And when people come to me and say, I'm having problems with my child and they're misbehaving, they're really down, they're really sad, within about 3 to 4 minutes of me talking to them, they start opening up. And the parent looks at me and says, You're amazing. How do you understand it? How do you do it? And I explain to them, it's because I vibe who the child is. It's not what I think or what I, obviously I can say, well, that's bad behavior. Anyone can see that. However, I want to know why, and I want to speak to them in a way where they feel that how do you know? I said, well, John Lenhart, Flowcess, I said, I've been doing it now about 18 months. And what we do is he's taught me how to flow and how to understand my uniqueness so that then I'm able to gauge anybody else's. I said, but then because I'm compassion is my why, I have to feel it unless that means I'm not working if I don't. And they're like, wow, it's amazing. I'm like, you can learn this. You can learn this for you and it'll help you through your life, your relationship, your parenting, your job, really, yes. And it's, again, people are scared because they know that once they know how they really work, it's then everything's going to be on them if they do it wrong. And I find this is very, very difficult as well because it's like, here's the solution, the dissolve of your life. Let's come with me and I'll take your hand and I'll walk you through it. And then they go, oh, yeah, I'll get back to you on that. And then they go away and then they come back 6 months later and go, my kid's acting up again. And I'm like, oh.
Right. It's on them whether they know this information or not. You're right. It's funny because it's like, I don't want to know this, then I'm at fault. You're already at fault. This stuff is happening whether you know about it. You were vibing people before you ever met me. All I did was give you words for it so you could explain it to others. I think your biggest frustration is you knew what was going on. You knew what the issue was between people. But then when you went to explain it, you couldn't do it. Yeah. I just gave you words to something you were already doing, and now other people are getting the benefit of it. So that's all that we've done here with the intangible drivers. The real issue is that at 13 years old, these kids' brains synaptically prune. And so we're going to get into this, next month about synaptic pruning, but I want to make this point. What happens is a kid drives their car, and younger than 13, they can do anything in that car. They can drive their car like you drive your car for a while. The thing is, though, is at some point, they're going to start really wanting to drive it a certain way. And that's when the kid is going to start really exerting themselves to drive. I naturally want to drive this way. And that's going to be the tension you talked about. If the kid doesn't drive their car, then their uniqueness at 13, their brain prunes. They lose the ability to do whatever they want to their brain. That's why these kids under 13 are amazing. And after 13, they're a mess. And at 14, they're in jail. So what happens is what teenage angst and all this stuff is their car suddenly got pruned down to, here's what is happening to most teenagers. They're driving their car and they turn the windshield wipers on and the radio gets louder. And now they're frustrated. And that's what's happening at that 13 and 14. These teenagers' brains have pruned in a way that doesn't match their uniqueness. And now they're frustrated because they go, I used to be able to do this. Now I can't anymore. And everything I'm doing in this car is not paying attention to me. Colin and I help teenagers out of that. But my big passion, we'll talk about another time, is to help them never go through that. There is a way to help them never have a bad synaptic pruning, and so that they prune to their car. And that's something we're going to talk about next month. So that's the issue. Now, the thing that bothers me is there are people out there who will go, one size doesn't fit all. You can listen to what Colin and I are saying and you go, yeah. But, I hear this with depression. I've helped all these people get over depression. Well, it doesn't work for everybody. A step-by-step regimented approach for depression that doesn't account for uniqueness will not work for everybody. Probably won't work for anybody. What we are talking about here is intangible drivers that the step 1 accounts for the uniqueness, step 2 accounts for the thought process, and then step 3 through 10 is everything you already know. Every person who rationalizes to me online on LinkedIn that This doesn't work for everybody. They are not listening. They are not understanding what we're offering is something completely different that no one else has. And the first step is it accounts for uniqueness. Everything they're arguing for uniqueness, this is what we're talking about. It is very frustrating for people to say stuff to me about how important uniqueness is when I sit there and go, yes. So what's your uniqueness? Explain it to me. Uniqueness is very important. Explain it to me. Well, I can't. Would you like to? They don't want to talk to me anymore. So was uniqueness really important to them, or was it a massive rationalization to avoid feel like they're wrong? They're already wrong.
Yeah, and I feel that with children and what you're talking about, going through the synaptic pruning stage, as again, we'll speak to people about how it goes and what actually happens in the process. How many times have you heard, and I can count as many that I've heard, do you know, they were so well behaved, and now it's like they don't listen to me. Now they're not interested in the way that I speak to them. Now they are cheeky back to me. Now that and you're like, it's not the kid that's the problem. The kid's been taught to act this way. And now the kid's now growing up, they've closed off these neural pathways. We'll not go into too deep. They are now just want to do what they want to do, and you don't understand who they are because you projected you onto them through their whole life. So why can't we just early on just grab them, and why would you not want to get your kid and understand them before? Well, can I? Yes, you can. Everybody can. And you know, I would love people to reach out for you. You're not just for business. You're not just for parents. You're not just for coaches. You're not just for, it's humans. It's human people. It's just, and if anyone understands himself through the process, I like that. That was good. We might use that. The process, what they're actually doing is they learn about themselves, and then they want to learn about other people. Why would you not want to learn about the people you live with?
Right. And we did a video where Jonathan and I shared how we helped over 100 people have an extraordinary, happy, joyful, fulfilling year in 2020. During a pandemic, they had their best year ever. And step one was know your uniqueness. Then the end of it was what you said, is now interacting, raising your self-esteem by talking to other people who know their uniqueness. So this all begins with the uniqueness part. And that's the key. And you're right. If you would understand your kid's uniqueness before they went through synaptic pruning, you'd understand why they're doing what they're doing after synaptic pruning. But the parents don't know how to think. So they don't know how to teach their kids how to think. And what the parents actually do is they say, the schools will teach my kids how to think. So they send their kids to the schools, and they're mad at the schools for not teaching my kid how to think. None of the teachers in the schools signed up for the job of teaching your kid how to think. They did not. And that's the issue. What we're seeing right now is teachers are getting overwhelmed. And before the pandemic, we were seeing it. Teachers are getting overwhelmed, and teachers have the worst thought processes in the world. Most of these teachers before 13 are like UConn, compassion server. They care for people and they sink into the thought process of the people they're around. So if you put 24 preteens and elementary school kids around any parent, how do you think that parent would cope? Where do you think their thought process would be?
I think they would flip out.
And that's the thing is when you stick 24 kids around a compassion server, in 1 month, their thought process is right into the kids. And that's what we say is school starts September, and by October 1st, it's a zombie apocalypse day. All of the teachers are now sunk into the kids who don't know how to think. And it's unfair to expect a teacher to hold up their thought process being surrounded by 24 kids. And the parents now yell at the teachers, you know, I got 3 kids at home. Why can't you fix my 1 kid? You just have my 1 kid. They've got 24 kids. How would you like to have 24 kids? So these teachers are the worst people to teach other kids how to think. The parents have given up their role of teaching their kids how to think. And now they're blaming the teachers. And we're going to be out of teachers if this continues, which is why we've created Instant Impact. We have a program that helps these teachers finish the school year with more energy than they began. And I say this, if these teachers like teaching, why would they finish the school year with less energy? If you love doing something and you get to do it for 9 months, why at the end of 9 months do you want to take 3 months away from it? It must be because your systems around you aren't helping you do what you love. That's what our program Instant Impact is about. It's started up right now, and these teachers can join it. We have discounts for schools that do more than 100 teachers at a time. We've had all these successes already in the last year, in the last 5 years, actually helping these teachers. And we have all these testimonials. So that's the issue. And it all comes back to parenting. The issues in the school begin in parenting, and none of the parents want to hear that.
Absolutely. And when, just to add to that, if you don't mind, when a teacher doesn't know their uniqueness and they can only teach one way according to how they think, not as to who they are, what actually happens is you'll get the ones that are similar to the way that they project, and then they'll be the good kids in the class. And then what you'll get is the kids that are badly behaved in the class, who they just get put to the principal's office, they get sent outside, they get told to be quiet, they get told not to disrupt. They become outspoken, they become unsettled. And they look like a bad student that doesn't have a brain, or they're not capable of doing it. They're just not being spoken to and taught the way that they want to be spoken to. So the system, it's like goes from parenting to the teacher to the system. It's everything's off. So while the teachers can learn Instant Impact, the parents can learn Instant Impact, and then the parents can talk to the teachers the way that they want to be. What are you? Well, I'm compassion server. Well, I'm server exhorter. Oh, well, that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to have to talk to you the way that you feel. We should all be doing it. Everyone's turning into robots. And it's going to be the teachers, the parents and the children and the teachers and the system. Everything's just going to be like a computer program if we don't make a stance on it just now.
Right. And so that you set up my conclusion perfectly. The issue is, that's why I have a heart for the teachers and I want to help them. The teachers are the best in the world at connecting with the kids. So every success these teachers have with the kids, we at Flowcess consider it the teacher success. They're the ones connecting with the kids, and they're the best at it. We at Flowcess are there for teacher care. Instant Impact is a teacher care program. We are there to care for the teachers, because of what you just said. The parents send the kids at the teachers, and now they got 24 of them, and they're overwhelmed. That's not the teacher's fault. And the system has the teachers doing certain things that hinder their ability to connect with the kids as well as they can. So what happens is the teachers connect with the kids that match them. They don't connect with the kids that don't. And it's not the teacher's fault. What Instant Impact does is what it did for you, Colin. It gives you the words they need to do what they're good at. They vibe these kids. We give them the words, and now they can intentionally connect with the most difficult kid. And when these teachers take the program, the first thing they say is, why aren't all the parents taking this? If all the parents would take this program, teaching would be one of the most fun jobs in the world, because the kids would be walking in knowing how to think and know their uniqueness. And now the teachers can put this information into the kids and help them socialize with all these other kids. The kids walking in not knowing how to think puts the teachers in a hole. And so that's why, to me, it's like, I want to help all these teachers intentionally do what they already do well with the most difficult students and with all their students, and build a community. What we do is we spend the first half of the school year helping the teacher make the environment safe and help the kids communicate with each other in a safe way. And then we spend the second half of the year helping these kids come together like a team, and the year just flows, and the teachers don't want the end of the school year to end.
Yeah. And they miss their kids. Where now the way it works, they don't miss their kids. And we want it to be back fun again. We want the human element of teaching to come back. And this is why we're making such a big fuss and making all these videos. And you've got the Flowcess program and everything. and it's all to allow people to focus on the humanitarian side of it. So we will go into this deeper in synaptic pruning and Mr. Lenhart's class in the future, and we can allow them to see how the kids can learn. But just now, it's about the parents and the teachers learning about how they learn who they are first. And once they do so, it's going to be a different world. So thank you very much again, John, and I look forward to speaking to you again next week. Take care.
Bye.